Numbers from Statistics Canada show Canadian exports to the United States are nearing the lowest ever.
Every year, $3.9 billion worth of Canadian nickel quietly fuels America's electric vehicle dreams. From Sudbury's mines to Detroit's assembly lines, it's been the silent artery of the EV boom. But in August, with one pen stroke, the man in the White House, once famous for selling casinos, decided he knew better than the market. Trump's 30% EV tariff didn't just target China, it blindsided Canada, America's closest ally, the neighbor we share hockey nights with. No carve-outs, no negotiation, just a tariff wall tall enough to block common sense. And Ottawa, they didn't fire off angry tweets. They started loading trade ammunition, because when you squeeze the lifeline of the battery belt, you risk Canada choosing between resuscitating the patient or pulling the plug. For decades, Ontario's nickel supply has powered U.S. battery plants, not from Beijing or Moscow, but from just across the border. Each year, 185,000 tons of nickel-copper ore worth nearly $4 billion moves south. That's not a deficit, that's a lifeline. But try explaining that to a president playing Monopoly with global trade. Here's the reality. The average SUV battery using NMC811 chemistry packs in 38 kilos of nickel, 80% of each cell. At $20,400 per ton, that's $775 in nickel per pack. Add Trump's 30% tariff, that's another $230 per battery, pushing total costs over each. GM's EV margins down from 10.1% to just 8.3%. And corporations hate single digits unless it's their tax rate. The fallout? Analysts predict 94,000 fewer EV sales in 2026. Prices up, profits down, competitiveness sinking. It's like hitting the gas and blaming the brakes for the crash. Canada, meanwhile, wasn't just watching. They were plotting. By the end of July, Ottawa rolled out a 4-move counterstrike. 15% export tax on raw nickel, hitting U.S. cathode makers used to duty-free supply. Carbon tracking rules. Only Ontario's low-emission nickel gets the NAFTA fast lane. $257 million investment fund, ramping up LFP battery tech to cut nickel dependence. Tax incentives for Stellantis LG's Windsor Gigafactory, locking jobs in Canada, not Michigan. Canada's Expenditure Office estimates these measures could redirect $1.8 billion in exports from U.S. buyers to South Korea and the EU by 2027. The shift is already underway. In early 2025, Canada's nickel sulfate exports jumped 23%. U.S. market share shrank as Germany and South Korea stepped in. The cleanest nickel in the hemisphere, once bound for Michigan, is now shipping to Hamburg and Seoul. America's fallback? Laterite nickel from Indonesia and the Philippines. Cheap, dirty, and carbon-heavy. Ontario's refined nickel averages 4.2 tons of CO2 per ton of metal. Indonesia's? 36. That's almost 9 times worse. And from 2026, the EU's $115 per ton CO2 border tax means any U.S. EV with dirty nickel will face massive penalties overseas. What was sold as America First is turning into an environmental and economic boomerang. Lose clean nickel, gain expensive carbon taxes. Now Washington's at a crossroads. Option 1. Exempt Canadian nickel entirely. Keep tariffs for others, but let Sudbury's supply through. Option 2. Hold the line. No exemptions. Canada hits back, cutting exports and rerouting supply. Option 3. Meet halfway. Drop the tariff slightly, revive the Critical Minerals Alliance, and pray Europe delays climate penalties. Markets think option 1 or 3 are most likely, but GM isn't waiting. They've slashed their 2026 EV output forecast by 50,000 units, a $3.2 billion loss. Consumers are feeling it, too. Tariffs and nickel costs could push the F-150 Lightning to $72,500 by 2026. Meanwhile, the gas-powered F-150 remains 15 to 20% cheaper to own over 8 years. The EV just got priced into luxury territory while gasoline trucks suddenly look like bargains. So much for protecting American workers. Instead, tariffs are protecting oil profits and pricing middle-class buyers out of the EV market. And here's the twist. Canada isn't begging for special treatment. They're shipping nickel east. The EU needs clean minerals for its Green Deal, and Ontario's supply fits perfectly. South Korea's imports from Ontario are already up 18% since March. While Washington builds tariff walls, Ontario's building trade bridges. And in the minerals game, Canada isn't the pawn. It's controlling the center of the board. Nickel, once a boring element on the periodic table, is now a geopolitical weapon. And Ottawa's holding it with 2 fingers on the trigger. This isn't Canada losing leverage. It's Canada realizing it never needed U.S. permission. That $3.9 billion artery between Ontario and Detroit could soon be severed. Not by bricks, but by bad math and worse politics. Investors won't gamble on EV plants in Michigan if Ontario's clean nickel isn't guaranteed. So, while Canada signs deals with Europe and Asia, America's battery belt is bleeding supply. And the White House? Too busy calling it a win to see the damage. The big question: if America keeps slamming doors on allies, how long before those allies stop knocking? Or, maybe, they already have. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more sharp breakdowns of global trade and politics.